and today we will be seeing about some diseases which are affecting the circulation, and these diseases we can call as a cardiovascular diseases. So by cardiovascular diseases we basically mean diseases which are affecting the heart as well as the blood vessels. That is why the term cardiovascular disease has been given to that. That is the meaning of the word cardiovascular disease. So cardiovascular disease means diseases which are affecting either heart or blood vessel. That is why we call it by the name cardiovascular diseases. And there are different types of cardiovascular diseases. We have to see one by one. Now, in the case of cardiovascular diseases, we have to see that in the case of cardiovascular diseases, there are different types of cardiovascular disease like coronary heart disease, angina, heart attack, congenital heart disease, stroke. And some of the heart diseases we have to see in our syllabus. And one important type of cardiovascular disease is known by the name cerebral thrombosis. We have to see what is a cerebral thrombosis. Here you can see that in this thrombus basically means a clot. A blood clot is what we mean by the name thrombus. So thrombus, so formation of thrombus is known by the name thrombosis. So a clot or a blood clot is formed inside a blood vessel. That is what we mean by thrombosis. So if that thrombus is present, is formed in a blood vessel going to the brain. For example, the cerebral blood vessels are giving blood to the different parts of the brain. If any blood clot is formed, is occurring in a blood vessel which is supplying blood to the different parts of the brain, what will happen? That part of the brain will be affected, or that part of the brain won't be getting any blood supply, and in that event that part of the brain will die. And this is the consequence of cerebral thrombosis. So thrombosis basically means a formation of a clot. Here in the next picture you can see that if a clot is formed in any blood vessel in the brain, then we call it by the name cerebral thrombosis. The consequence of cerebral thrombosis is that the blood vessel which are supplying blood to that particular region of the brain will not be able to supply, and blood, as a result, that part will eventually die. So the death of the cells of that part will take place. So this is the result of cerebral thrombosis. Now, and what are the immediate symptoms of cerebral thrombosis? Usually, the immediate symptom is very severe headache, and there will be abnormal vision. By abnormal vision means we won't be seeing things in a proper way. We may be seeing double vision. Sometimes we cannot have a clear vision. So these are the features of abnormal vision. If we are seeing some objects smaller or some objects larger, some object very far, some objects very near, these are all indications of abnormal vision. Sometimes we can see same object as two objects, double vision. So one problem is that there will be severe headache. Another problem is the presence of abnormal vision. Then the symptoms of stroke. In case of stroke, what is happening is that there is basically a rupture or breaking of breakage of blood vessel in the brain. That is the meaning. That is the consequence of stroke, and the blood will be leaked into the different tissues of the brain. So sometimes there will be headache, there will be abnormal vision, there will be one important problem of the cerebral thrombosis is that during cerebral thrombosis, what is happening is that there will be a formation of clot in one part or in one blood vessel of the brain, and as a result of clot, that blood vessel will be bulgy because that is blocked, and the region before the block will be bulging, and sometimes a rupture, breaking of the blood vessel will take place, and a lot of blood will be leaked or released into the surrounding tissues of the brain. and those tissues of the brain will then die because of the suffocation from the because they are being immersed in the blood, so they won't get enough amount of oxygen or other nutrients. And normally brain cells are very sensitive. If a brain cell is not getting oxygen for 5 minutes or 10 minutes maximum, they will die. So in the case of a brain problem, we have to supply oxygen very immediately, otherwise the person will die. That is one problem with the brain cell. It needs we have to act very fast. So that is one problem in the case of this in the case of this cerebral thrombosis. Cerebral thrombosis can lead to a stroke. During stroke, what happens is that there is rupture. Rupture means breaking of blood vessel, and the blood will be leaked into the surrounding tissues, as you can see. This is one way which it is shown. So in the case of cerebral thrombosis, that is the problem. Now, how we can diagnose the cerebral thrombosis? How can we understand that the person is having a problem of blood clot inside some blood vessel in the brain? Normally, we are adopting a type of X-ray known by the name CT scan or CAT scan. CT scan or CAT scan are basically both are X-ray. You know how X-ray is working. So basically, this is also an X-ray, but in the use of a CT scan, they are taking X-ray from different angles. Now, in a normal X-ray, we are taking image only from one direction. But in a CT scan, you might have seen the scanning machine. It is a tunnel-like machine, and there will be X-ray releasing cameras, X-ray releasing devices at many points on that tunnel, and there will be several detectors also. So from different points, an X-ray image of the brain will be taken, and that X-ray image of the brain will be given to a computer, and computer will analyze the image and produce a final output. So that is what is happening in the use of a computerized tomography. Tomography basically means X-ray photography. So if X-ray photography is taken using a computer, we call it by the name CT scan or computerized tomography. Then another is the magnetic resonance imaging. So in the use of X-ray, computer CT scan, we are using X-rays. But where in the use of magnetic resonance imaging, that is, we are not using any kind of X-ray. What is happening is that we place the person in a very high magnetic field. When we are placing the person in a very high magnetic field, the hydrogen atoms in our body will be vibrating and be releasing a lot of electromagnetic waves, which are dictated by certain radio sensors, and that will be combined, that will be given to a computer, and computer will be producing an output. So that is what is happening in the case of magnetic resonance imaging. So the difference is that magnetic resonance imaging and does not use any X-ray, so it is more safe, but at the same time it is more costly. If the cost of a CT scan is 1,000, the cost of MRI will be around 3,000 or 4,000. So it is 4 times costlier than a normal CT scan. Now another, and usually both these methods are combined with radio contrast. Radio contrast means that we will be injecting a radioactive isotope into our blood. So when this blood is reaching, the radioactive isotope is reaching the brain, and that that will be giving that will not allow the passage of X-ray through that. So if in any area, if there is a block, that area will be easily dictated in the image formation, that is the image that is produced. So that is the advantage of using a radioactive isotope in combination with the X-ray photography or CT scan. So these are the techniques by which we are using to detect if there is any block inside a blood vessel. Now what happens? And now suppose we detect that there is a block inside a blood vessel. You might have heard about that. Some person telling you, some family members of you are telling you that there is a block, and doctor put some then in the case of cardio angioplasty they will be doing. Such times you might have heard already. Here, but they also do some techniques like that. There is no angioplasty. What they are doing is that they will be using some enzymes, and these enzymes will be destroying the clot, and that is known as thrombolysis. That is enzymatic destruction of the blood. So we will be injecting some enzymes, which this enzyme, purpose of this enzyme is to destroy or break the clot, so that break the clot so that the block is removed. So that is the approach of treatment. In the case of cerebral thrombosis, we will be injecting some enzyme. Enzymes will be destroying the clot and clearing the path, and so that blood can easily flow. So that is one mechanism by which we are treating the cerebral thrombosis. And sometimes problem is that the block is very severe, and as a result the brain intracranial pressure, the pressure inside the brain, that will be increased several times. In such a situation, if we don't if we cannot if you don't do a surgery immediately, sometimes there is a breaking or rupture of the blood vessel, and lot of blood will be released into the brain tissue, and brain tissue will all die. So in such situation, an immediate brain surgery may be needed. And sometimes what we do is that we use a shunt. Shunt is basically another tube. So for example, if there is a block in one tube, what we can do is that we will divert the blood flow from that blood vessel to another blood vessel by using another small tube, an artificial tube, or we take another blood vessel from different parts of the body, and we use that blood vessel to divert the blood from that blood vessel, main blood vessel, to another blood vessel, to that, going to that area. That system is known as shunt, or placement of shunt. So shunt is basically diverting blood from one blood vessel to another blood vessel. That is or it is like a bypass line. For example, there is a main line, and the nearby main line there is another line. We usually in the case of roads we call it as bypass. So here also it is like a bypass line that will reroute the blood or resupply the blood in a different way. So these are the techniques that we are approaching in the case of the cerebral thrombosis. Now, this is one type of diseases which are affecting the cerebral brain. Now, another is about the blood pressure. You know what is the blood pressure. Everybody is knowing. You might have a good idea about what is blood pressure and how blood pressure is normally affecting us in a life. Because blood pressure is creating a lot of problems always. Because the main problem with blood pressure is that we cannot dictate blood pressure. There won't be an external symptoms in this on most of the blood vessel. So that is the most important problem in most of in these of these diseases affecting blood pressure. Now we will see what is blood pressure. Blood pressure is basically the pressure exerted or pressure produced by the circulating blood. Circulating blood means blood passing through a blood vessel upon the walls of the blood vessel. There is when a blood is going through a tube, that blood will be putting some pressure on the wall of the blood vessel. That pressure which is produced or which is exerted by the circulating blood on the wall of the blood vessel is called by name blood pressure. So that is the meaning of the word blood pressure. Now usually we are taking the arterial pressure. In most of the time we are taking high blood pressure. We are pressure exerted inside the artery. So that is what we mean by blood pressure. So in a very simple sentence, blood pressure is the pressure exerted by circulating blood on the wall of the blood vessel. And usually we refer to the pressure inside an artery, not the vein. Now, it is usually measured. How we are measuring the blood pressure? There is a system for measuring the blood vessel. You might have seen about doctor placing a cuff on your upper arm, and they will be using a balloon-like device to pump some air into that cloth-like cuff. And after some time, he will be placing a stethoscope also on your veins, and he will be counting, when the pulse is stopping and when pulse is again started. So when we pump air into the cuff or that cloth, after some time the sensation of pulse will not occur. Now after some and he is actually gradually releasing the air also. And after some when he is releasing the air, after a certain duration of time, the pulse again reappears. That point he will be calculating. That is a mechanism for calculation of the blood pressure. So that device which is used for calculating the dictating the blood pressure is known by the name sphygmomanometer. Sphygmomanometer. And there are artificial type, no, automatic type of sphygmomanometer also. But in all these devices, it basically works in the same way. So it will be dictating the pressure inside the our blood vessel. Now there are two different types of values in this blood pressure. One is an upper value. Normally the upper value is the 120, and the lower value will be 80. So when we are dictating the pressure of a person, usually there are two situations. One is a systolic pressure. Systolic pressure is the pressure that occurs in a blood vessel when heart is contracting. So that is when heart is contracting, what is the situation? More blood will be coming into our blood vessel. So the pressure will be higher. And that pressure is known by the name systolic pressure. Now there is another type of pressure, and the second type of pressure is the second type of pressure. What we are seeing is that the pressure will be lower because when the heart is relaxing, when the chambers of the heart is relaxing, what happens is that less blood will be passing through the blood vessel, and during such a time, the pressure inside the blood vessel will be lower, and that lower pressure is known by the name diastolic pressure. So when we are talking about the blood pressure, we can see there are two different types of blood pressure. One is a systolic pressure and other is a diastolic pressure. And this systolic pressure is normally 120 millimeter of mercury or mm of mercury, and diastolic pressure is usually 80 mm of mercury. So in a normal person who is at a resting situation, who is not doing any physical work, pressure is usually around this range. It is between upper limit is 120 and lower limit is 80. So if the upper limit is above 120, we can say that the person is having high blood pressure. Similarly, the lower pressure is also very much above 80 mm of mercury. We can call that the person is having high blood pressure. So that is the significance of this upper value as well as lower value. Now, what is the importance of blood pressure? The blood pressure varies depending on situation. For example, if you are running and you are coming back, your pressure will be higher. So the physical activity will be deciding your blood pressure, and sometimes your mental activity. If you are very tensed, very stressed, then again blood pressure will be higher. Sometimes certain diseases. That is why whenever you go to doctors will be always taking the blood pressure, because taking blood pressure is one way by which he can confirm that the person is okay. If the person is okay, his pressure is will be normally okay. If there is any difference or variation in the pressure, then doctor can doubt that the person is not well. There may be something, he is ill, and there may be some reason for that. Then he can investigate more. That is the reason why most of the time doctors are taking blood pressure, because it is an easy way to make sure that the system is working properly and the person is not having any problem. Then what we are seeing is then there are two situations. one situation is that blood pressure is low if there is any disease. And sometimes the pressure will be very low. If for example, if the pressure is lower than 120, systolic pressure is lower than 120, or diastolic pressure is lower than 120, we call that situation as hypotension or simply low pressure. What is the problem of the low pressure? If the pressure is too much low, many of the tissues and cells in our body will not be able to get sufficient amount of blood. That is the main problem. So normally you might have heard about high blood pressure, but lower blood pressure can also be a problem. If our brain is not getting sufficient blood, then what will happen? That part of the brain will die. So low pressure is also a problem. That is when the pressure is low, the movement of the blood will be very slow. That is the problem with the low pressure. So in the case of low pressure, the passage of the blood or the flow of the blood will be very slow, and most of the tissues and organs will not be able to get sufficient amount of blood. So that is the main problem with the low pressure. Now there is an opposite situation known by the name high blood pressure. What happens in the case of high blood pressure? Now if it is high blood pressure, this 120, the systolic pressure may be 130, 140, 150, 160. If it is slightly above 120, then it is somewhat okay. We call the person as a moderate BP. But if the person is going above 140, we say that the person is having high BP, very high BP, and above 140 is not safe, and that can affect different organs of your body. Mainly, one important organ that is affected is the kidney, because you know that the kidney is formed of many smaller nephrons. And what happens to these nephrons is that if there is high pressure, most of these nephrons will be damaged, and slowly what will happen is that kidney will be most part of the kidney will be also damaged, and that situation is known by the name kidney failure. Sometimes you might have heard about that the kidney has to be replaced, or the person has to undergo dialysis most of the time. These are the reasons. So if the high blood pressure is there, that situation is known by the name hypertension. And problem with hypertension is that usually if the person is having hypertension, there will not be any visible symptom. The person will appear perfectly okay. We cannot say that the person is having high blood pressure by simply looking at that person. Only if a doctor is taking the pressure using a sphygmomanometer, he can tell that the person is having high blood pressure. There will not be any symptom. So that is the biggest problem of the hypertension. It won't show any symptoms. So in the absence of symptoms, the person may feel that he is okay. Now, if he is living with that situation for 10 years or 20 years, slowly the kidney will be damaged, and the kidney has to be replaced, or the person has to undergo dialysis throughout his life. So that is the problem with the hypertension. Hypertension is sometimes therefore called as a silent killer because it won't show any symptoms. And both so in the case of both, as I already told you, long-term hypertension is a risk factor for many diseases, including kidney failure. Kidney failure is important. Then it can also cause heart disease, for example, heart attack or cardiac arrest. It can be. So high BP and heart disease are always related. Then another problem is stroke. You know what is a stroke? If there is some clot inside a blood vessel, that part of the blood vessel will be enlarged or bulged, and sometimes break or rupture will occur, and releasing blood into the surrounding tissue. That situation is known by the name stroke. And long-term hypertension is comparatively more common than long-term hypotension. So compared with the hypotension is present in less number of people. So hypertension is more common, and hypertension is usually considered as a lifestyle disease, because if you are taking too much fat, And this high fat or high cholesterol in your body can increase the can what presence is that in this so high a higher amount of fat, the diameter of your blood vessel, especially important blood vessel going to the heart and brain, may be reduced. And such a situation, less brain as less blood will be passing through that blood vessel, and that situation and can lead to a stroke or rupture of the blood vessel. So hypertension is a very important problem. By one important thing is that frequent monitoring, daily exercise, and also monitoring your blood pressure. All this can reduce the hypertension, or we can keep the pressure in a normal level. So otherwise, if the pressure is too high, then we have to go for medication which are lowering your blood pressure. But like that, any medicine, whatever types of medicine you are taking, every medicine will be having its own small disadvantages. It can have its own side effects. So as far as possible, try reducing the blood pressure by physical exercises, changing in lifestyle, and also by reducing the changing your type of food that you are eating. For example, in this hypertension, we have to reduce the intake of salt, because normally a healthy person can take up to 80 grams of salt per day. If a person is having hypertension, then he can only safely take around 2 grams of salt each day. So that means you know how much amount of salt a person has to do. This we have to reduce it to 75%. So that is the technique that we can adopt in case of hypertension. Then we go to another case, that is arteriosclerosis. Earlier I was discussing with you is that sometimes what happens is that the cholesterol, that is the fat, if you are taking too much amount of fat, this fat may be depositing inside your blood vessel. Here you can see this is how the normal blood vessels will be appearing. Now what happens is that if there is too much amount of fat or cholesterol in your body, this fat will be depositing on the inner wall of the blood vessel, and slowly it will be blocking. So here you can see that this is the fat or plaque, accumulation of fat deposits, and that will be gradually reducing the diameter of the blood vessel. Here you can say narrowed lumen. Lumen means the cavity or opening. So this is the problem with in the use of the fat deposition. That situation in which when blood vessel from your heart or shoulder become thick and stiff, and when this situation happens, normally it is because of the cholesterol deposition. When a blood, and as a result, what happens is that the elastic nature, normally the blood vessel is slightly elastic. When too much fat is deposited inside the blood vessel, the elastic nature of the blood vessel will be reduced, and that will lead to a situation the blood vessel become more hard, it won't expand. So that problem occurs, and that situation is known by the name arteriosclerosis. This simply means hardening of artery. That is the meaning. Arterio means artery, sclerosis means hardening. So arteriosclerosis in a literal sense, it means hardening of arteries, and this hardening of arteries occurs when blood vessel from your heart to the rest of the body become thick and stiff. That is, the elastic nature of the blood vessel will be lost. And elastic nature of the blood vessel is lost. What happens is that the blood cannot easily pass through the blood vessel. That is the main problem in the use of arteriosclerosis. So that most of your organs and tissues won't be able to get sufficient amount of the blood. So that situation, and sometimes when if it is an artery going to your brain or artery going to your heart, and that artery is blocked because of the presence of this kind of fat deposition, what happens? The heart may not be getting enough amount of blood, and heart stops working, which is called cardiac arrest or heart attack. And so normally what is the situation is that in the case of healthy artery, they are flexible and elastic. But over a time, with the deposition of this fat, they become hardened. They become more quite thick or stiff or hardened. and that's a result that elastic quality, elastic nature will be reduced. It won't be able to, it won't be flexible, it won't be able to expand. And this situation is known by the name arteriosclerosis. And there is a related term called atherosclerosis, also is caused by the same thing, but refers to buildup of fat, cholesterol, etc. on the artery walls. And so whether you can either call it as arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis, both are same thing, and both have the same effect on your body. Sometimes what happens is these plaques, what happens is that these plaques, this fat deposit will get detached, and they will be flowing in the blood vessel. And when there is some narrow region or some junction, they will be simply blocking that junction, and that is the result of, that in that situation, that will lead to a situation known by the name thrombus, and thrombus can lead to a situation called a stroke. So this arteriosclerosis is often considered as a heart problem, a problem of the cardiac blood vessel, but it can affect any part of the body, and usually this is preventable. We can reduce the we can reduce the occurrence of arteriosclerosis. So here also this is also a lifestyle problem. When this arteriosclerosis is taking place, when there is too much cholesterol. So measuring your cholesterol is an important thing. Usually once you are aged 40, we have to be very careful. We have to undergo frequent monitoring your BP, your cholesterol, and your blood sugar, and also urine level, urine composition. All these we have to measure. The problem is that these are simple ways by which we can dictate that our body is okay. If everything in your body is okay, then you don't worry. We don't worry too much. But if there is some problem, then you have to take measure. One important thing that you can always do is that doing a lot of exercise, because exercise keeps your body fit, and reducing the intake of fat, especially if you are eating this outside food or bakery items or hotel food. They can all contain a lot of fat and other things, which can significantly increase the amount of cholesterol in your body. So this is the mechanism by which we can reduce the incidence of this kind of disease. We have two more types of diseases, which we things we have to study, which we will take in the next class. So today with this we will be stopping.